Hi guys, Neil Waterhouse. As the host and founder of the 4 largest eBay and Amazon meetup groups in Australia with over 4,000 members, I get to see a lot of mistakes that people new to dropshipping make, and they're all easily avoidable. So here goes. Number 1, do not use overseas suppliers. Yes, I know there are tons of books and courses out there saying to use overseas suppliers like AliExpress, etc. However, the reality is, if you sell on eBay, Amazon, Shopify, your own independent website, or all 4, and the item takes weeks to arrive, it is your eBay, Amazon account or website that cops the negative feedback, and defect scores. A lot of people think that, to get around this, they'll just sell on their own independent website or, Shopify site. But the reality is, if you consistently accept orders and upset people with long shipping delays, buyers get upset and then they can cancel orders, etc. The problem with dropshipping using overseas suppliers is there are so many different reasons. Shipping can get delayed. It can be customs in China or whatever country you're using. It can be customs in your own country. It can be a volcanic ash or a holiday in China or an earthquake or whatever. A multitude of other reasons. Over the years, I've seen tons of reasons. Now I know there are people out there who are successfully using overseas suppliers for their dropship business, but and that's fine. But personally, I've been selling online now for over 20 years. And I simply find it way too risky to use overseas suppliers. But everyone's got their own choice. Now, one of the great things with dropshipping is you can build a business in almost any country, from any country. In fact, eBay's in 27 countries and Amazon's in 16 countries. But if you're building a business in, say, Australia, only use Australian suppliers. Or if you're building a business, say, the US, whether you're based in the US or based in another country, only use US suppliers. Also, only use suppliers who can dispatch within 2 business days. Now, the second mistake I see beginners make is to not have a methodology in place to continually check suppliers' inventory. So if your supplier runs out of stock, you do not accidentally oversell an item. And today, we're blessed with multiple ways to check supplier inventory. Now, the first method is, of course, to manually check your supplier's inventory 7 days a week yourself. Then the next step up is to pay a virtual assistant $1 to $2 per hour to do so, or do the task for you. And the third option is to fully automate the process using software like Scarcity Manager, which will automatically check your supplier's inventory for you 24/7, 365. And if an item is out of stock, it'll automatically make your listing 0. Hey buffers, didn't know these guys were behind me. Anyway. Won't lose my train of thought. Anyway, I'll put a link on the screen to Scarcity Manager. The third mistake I see beginners make is to not leverage their time. Again, there's no excuse for this. It's never been easier and cheaper to help get low-cost overseas virtual assistants. But back when I started using VAs or virtual assistants, I used to continually fly over to Cebu in the Philippines. And there, I trained the staff. But back then, we simply didn't have the tools we have available today to train them. And to train them online. It always used to cost a lot of money, not just in flights, but back then I was paying $895 US per person per month. And of course today you can get staff from $1 to $2 per hour. Learning to let go and leverage your time is one of the quickest ways to turn a 6-digit dropship business into a 7 or 8-digit business. The third mistake I see newbies making is selling low quality products. And again, this is so easy not to do. One of the great things about dropshipping is you can just sell proven products. In other words, products which are already selling at a profit. When items are already selling, when items are already selling, you can look at the feedback from the seller to see if there's any negative feedback about that particular product. And if there is, simply don't sell it. Also, when you're drop shipping, most countries like Australia, your supplier, if you use Australian suppliers, by law, they have to honour a 12-month warranty. So if you have any items that are faulty, you just send them straight back to the supplier. By law, they have to take them back, repair them, replace them, whatever. Now, the fourth mistake is to sell products which create buyer confusion. You should never use suppliers which either put invoices in boxes or the supplier marks the boxes with their brand name. For example, let's say you sell an item for, say, $500. If the box turns up to the customer and there's an invoice in the box from the supplier made out to you for, say, $300 and showing you obviously made $200 profit, the buyer gets upset. The buyer can also get upset if they purchase from you and the item rocks up in, say a Kmart box, or if you're selling on eBay, it rocks up in an Amazon box. This simply creates buyer confusion. The solution is to not use suppliers who put invoices in boxes, or if they do, ask the supplier if they can ship it as a gift. The fifth mistake I see beginner dropship sellers make is that over 90% of dropship sellers use what we call best guess marketing strategies. They just guess it all. They just guess, titles and anyway, I won't go into the 74 things to optimize listening, but again, today we're so blessed with the tools that are available out there, and there's no reasons to ever guess anything. In fact, we don't allow our virtual assistants to guess anything at all, as if they do, there's a greater than 50% chance they'll screw it up. Guessing, it's simply not allowed. For example, when creating a title, you can use tools like Terapeak, and you can use, the eBay auto suggestion tool, which is, in other words, the search box, to show you the most popular keywords, and that's free. The sixth mistake I see many people make is they forget about the basics. The difference between a 6-digit business and a 7 or 8 or 9-digit business is simply how many proven items are listed. So many people get caught up in all the, the new shiny new objects and the latest ninja tricks that they forget about the basics. It all comes down to research, listing, optimizing, tuning, and then you simply hit the repeat button. Of course, things come up like lack of time, but again, this is where it's critical to leverage your time by using VAs and allocating 10% of your profits to virtual assistants. The seventh mistake I see beginners make is they guess which products to sell. Again, there is no need to guess. Only sell products which are consistently selling and consistently selling at a profit. Now, the eighth mistake I see beginners make is they chop and change from one shiny new object to the next shiny new object. Now, life does not reward us for being a jack of all trades. Life rewards us for what we master. The last mistake, which I see over and over again, is procrastination due to perfection. I'll just repeat that: procrastination due to perfection. And I've been really guilty of that over the years. So many people want to get it 100% right before making their business live. The reality is, it's impossible to get any business 100% perfect. It's simply an unobtainable goal. For most things, 80% good enough is good enough. Now, I don't mean listing items, with a ton of spelling errors. I just mean version 1 is better than version none. Version 1 can be measured, and if you can measure it, you can improve it. That's all this week. No matter where you're watching this, please scroll on down, leave me a comment below. Until next week, list more, sell more. This is Neil Waterhouse.